First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting ACB to join this national conference, especially when we deem that this is the perfect opportunity to promote what we are doing, especially about the ASEAN Heritage Parks program. So not many are aware of what it is, especially when we talk about protected areas. But the outline of my presentation would start first by introducing to you what the ACB is, and then followed by what the program is about, and what the Secretariat can offer with regard to supporting countries in uh, inscribing new ASEAN Heritage Parks. So the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity is an intergovernmental regional center of the ASEAN. So sometimes they mistake us as NGOs, but we are not, because we are established by virtue of the establishment agreement signed by the 10 ASEAN member states in 2005. This is supported by the ratification by each government. Right now, we have a total of 9 out of 10 ratifications. So we're just waiting for the last ratification that will come from Indonesia. We were created to support the ASEAN member states to comply with the 3 pillars or objectives of the CBD, which are the following: on conservation, sustainable use, and on access and benefit sharing. Our mandates include, well, primarily we were created really to serve the ASEAN member states to comply with your commitments to the conventions. Primarily with the CBD, but also because biodiversity conservation is a cross-cutting topic, so we help also countries in facilitating or in complying to the requirements of the other biodiversity-related conventions, such as the Ramsar Convention, the CITES, the Convention on Migratory Species, also on the plant genetic resources. We cooperate and we facilitate the coordination among the member states, and also we provide a forum for discussions and in resolving issues cross-country biodiversity issues, especially when we follow the ASEAN process. So this we take up national and national issues of regional importance in these formal meetings on a yearly basis. So we provide a framework for sharing information and also provide capacity building services and make sure that these countries have a common understanding. So that's why at least in every conference of parties of the CBD, we try to get a statement from ASEAN. We have, because biodiversity conservation is a very broad topic, so we needed to focus and to establish our niche. The program areas are subdivided into 2. We have thematic and geographic, where when we talk about ASEAN, the ASEAN Heritage Parks program falls under this geographic area on protected area management. So what is the ASEAN Heritage Parks program? This is not our program, but it is a flagship program of ASEAN, which manages a regional network of representative protected areas created to generate greater collaboration. So it's a mechanism or instrument that would foster cooperation among the member states with regard to protected area management and sharing natural heritage as espoused or that can be redounded to the protected areas. The first declaration was signed way back in 1984 when there were still 6 members of ASEAN. So when the 4 additional member states, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam, joined ASEAN. So the countries decided to re-sign the declaration in 2003. So now what we are uh, holding now is the 2003 declaration. In the declaration, it states that the countries are aware of the uniqueness, diversity, and outstanding values of certain protected areas, and that these national parks deserve highest recognition, so that they will not just be recognized nationally, but also outside of their countries, or in the regionally or internationally. Further, the ASEAN Declaration states that HPs should be managed to maintain ecological processes and life support systems, preserve genetic diversity, ensure sustainable utilization of species and ecosystems, and encourage or try to maintain its wilderness state. By definition, what is an ASEAN Heritage Park? It is a protected area of high conservation importance that preserves in total a complete spectrum of representative ecosystems in the region. So more or less, it would like to have this for each HP. It has the character of ASEAN. So before one protected area can be considered as an HP, the nominations or protected areas should comply to the following criteria. So first, there is this main criteria. At least this is the minimum standard, but then also there are 4 additional criteria. Main criteria includes ecological completeness. So when talk about ecological completeness, this refers to looking at the ecological processes and the capability to regenerate with minimal human intervention. And the second is on representativeness. It refers to the variety of ecosystems or species representing or typical of the particular region. This is somehow tricky because in many instances we're asked like for what ecosystem or species represent ASEAN. Maybe what we usually cite as an example is like the rhino, maybe the tiger also. So these are typical, or it can be found only in this part of the world. Number 3, naturalness. We are looking at the condition. Of course, priority would be those untouched ecosystems. Number 4, high conservation importance. It should have global significance. Number 5, it should be legally recognized, so through the gazettement. And lastly, it should have a management plan. The additional criteria include the transboundary aspect or nature of the protected area, in that we look at the benefits that this prospective protected area can offer to its adjacent areas, the uniqueness of the protected area, the high ethnobiological significance, and its importance for endangered or precious biodiversity. So just to tell you the process in the HP nomination. So we start with the protected area manager prepares the nomination document with the help of the designated AHP committee member. So for each country, there is a designated AHP committee member. So this has been, committee members are endorsed formally to ACB. The second, we follow a protocol. So all nominations should pass through the national contact point of ACB, so that this can be recognized by ACB as the AHP Secretariat. And third, with the help of technical experts, we review and endorse the nomination documents. In this stage, we tap experts depending on the type or dominant type of ecosystem. So like for marine protected areas, we partner with the national and regional experts, and for terrestrial protected areas depends on what is unique in the nominated protected area. If it highlights species, then like for primates, then the experts on that subject matter would be tapped. And so once ACB has reviewed the nomination documents, these are forwarded to the proper ASEAN working group. So for coastal and marine protected areas, these are forwarded to the AWG-CME. And then after that, if it passes the technical review process, this will be elevated to the next level, and this will be reviewed and subsequently endorsed by the ASEAN senior officials on environment. Following this, approval or the approval comes from the ministerial level, so the ASEAN ministers on environment. Just to show you the usual timeline, because as mentioned earlier, we follow the ASEAN process, which happens once a year. So we align it with the schedules of these formal meetings. So ahead of time, actually, the protected area manager, together with the AHP committee member, they can already prepare the documents ahead of time and submit to ACB. We submit it, we review it we have time to review it during the first quarter, and in the second quarter, usually around May or June, the working group meets, and so these are tabled in the meeting. So we include the nominations in the meeting agenda. Then subsequently to the ASON, and then lastly, they are approved or endorsed by the ASEAN ministers. So far, this has been a trend. If you'll take a look in the first declaration, they have showed 11 nominations. So we added 16 more to make it 27 in 2003. But then during past years, we have received some, but they have not passed. But only a few have gone through the entire process also. So far, just to quickly show you the list of AHPs. In Malaysia, you have three. These three, as you can see, these have been included in the original declaration. So way back in 1984. So, and since then we are, of course, continuing to promote the program so that we can have more buy-in and interest from the countries to nominate more AHPs. So Brunei Darussalam has 1, Cambodia has 2, Indonesia. Just last year, they nominated Waikambas, and Laos still has 1. But the Philippines has the most. I do not know if it's because our office is located in the Philippines. So, but then, you see, they have 8. Myanmar has the next 7. Singapore has 2. Thailand has 4. But what is unique in Thailand, if you'll note, they are the only HPs. They have 2 HPs that are complexes. So in here, number 31, this is a marine protected area complex comprised of 3 national parks, 3 AHPs. So in here, Keng Krachan, they have also at least 2. And Vietnam has 5. This is the distribution of AHPs that you can see. And so I would like to share with you so far what our partners have contributed to the AHP program. In 2008 and 2010, the EU helped us in allocating some funds for each AHP. The GIZ has recently completed the project on climate change, and under the pilot projects program, we're able to allocate some funds in selected AHPs. ongoing project with GIZ will be for selected AHPs in Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. And again, GIZ has this ongoing project related to institutional strengthening of the biodiversity sector. Right now, the KfW Development Bank has an active project with us. For the first phase, we have the pilot countries in Indonesia and Myanmar. And for the phase 2, we are preparing now for Vietnam. We also, one of the dialogue partners of ASEAN dialogue partners, Japan, we were able to tap some funds through the Japan ASEAN Integration Fund project. We, under these external support, we were able to conduct some studies in support of the program. Number one, in 2013 we were able to complete this assessment of management effectiveness in ASEAN Heritage Parks, and this is due for updating because usually we do that every 3 years. Also on good practices and lessons learned in selected protected area management in Southeast Asia. Also on scoping study in climate change. We'd like to highlight the key stakeholders as far as HP management is concerned. So ACP acts as the secretariat. As mentioned earlier, there are committee members assigned per country, and ideally we meet every year. That is once every year during the first quarter. And then, of course, we have the managers or the heads of the AHPs. But in here, we are also highlighting the importance. We have been talking about collaborative management. And so this is part of our advocacy in really including the other sectors of the society, subnational governments, the IPLCs, the business sector, NGOs, academic and research institutions, civil society organizations, and others. The framework for implementation is the CBD program for protected areas, but just recently we have the ASEAN ministers have recently approved or endorsed the regional action plan for ASEAN Heritage Parks. This is will run for this will be effective until 2020. We are always asked about what benefits do we get if we become an AHP. So first, let me start by citing that we always look for, there is always regular capacity building support in the form of various learning events, like sometimes exchange programs, so study tours, so we try to organize these. And also depending on the needs, expressed needs of the AHPs. So we just do not organize without any basis. AHPs receive technical assistance from the AHP Secretariat. We have in-house experts. And we tap our network of partners. We have a roster of experts. Also, visibility of AHPs as ecotourism destinations and models for effective protected area. These are enhanced, so you get free promotion also. And we promote the participation of the key stakeholders of the AHPs. We also assist in the AHPs in complying with the reporting requirements and other commitments to other global initiatives. Also, we try not to, or we complement. We do not duplicate or efforts being done at the national or subnational level. We provide the regional platform for information sharing. And one is, aside from the committee meetings, there's this conference which we organize every 3 years. This started in 2004. And now, for the 5th time, we're organizing the conference in Myanmar next month. So we're in the heat of the preparations for the conference. And lastly, when partners approach ACB and they're interested in investing in AHPs, we'd like to like maybe allocate or apportion some funds, then of course we point at the AHPs. So depending on, it's also our job as Secretariat to make recommendations as to what HP should receive the kind of support. So it's very specific also. Like for example, in in the earlier intervention that I have presented, for if the country has received the support already, like for example from KFW, for Indonesia, Myanmar, and Vietnam. So our recommendation would be to shift towards the other countries that have not received support yet. So that's also our balancing act. So how do we promote the HPs? Because this is a cross-cutting concern. This is in all ACB programs and projects. We have this SEPA component, and through various media, through the website, the magazine, publications, press releases, and briefings, we promote the HPs, also including formal meetings and national regional events like now. So it's a part of our promotion, and dialogues with the policy and decision makers. With in the past months, we have received a number of dialogue partners, from the other parts of in Europe. So they're also interested. We also, during this experiential learning program, also site-based training events and site development, depending on the limitations or the scope of the projects. So sometimes they allow rehabilitation of visitor centers. Sometimes they allow procurement of field equipment, like what we have done with Gunung Mulu, so, and the like. We promote this concept of collaborative management, and would like to get rid of the very old notion of fortress conservation. And through this alternative approach, we take into account the needs of communities and stakeholders to also include the socio-economic aspects. So through buffer zone management, integrated conservation development, and collaborative management. Thus, in recent projects like for KFW, there's this component always for the communities living inside or within the vicinity of the AHPs. So again, to cite this small grants program in Indonesia, Myanmar, and Vietnam, the 40% of the grants would go to conservation, like that for conservation areas, and 60% would go to livelihood projects for communities. And our upcoming project for the EU, we have also adopted that approach. What are our contribution to the Aichi targets and the SDGs? This is emphasized in the regional action plan, and we recognize the alignment of the Aichi target 11 with sustainable development goals number 14 and 15. Especially if we take a look at that, they're mentioning about the coverage of protected areas. Some lessons learned in that planning is really very important, and in what I mean is that yes, you have the management plans, but you have to conform to the changing environment. So sometimes you have to revise or update this management approach is site specific, and thus adaptive management is necessary. And collaboration with stakeholders across levels is very important. Also based on the experience of, I would like to cite the case of the Philippines, because they have, in 1992, they have this National Integrated Protected Area System. It's all a national law wherein they prescribe the standard processes in preparing a management plan, the standard contents of having a management plan, and also putting in the policy the creation of multi-stakeholder committees, in what they call as protected area management boards. And so decisions are being done not solely by the government, but by the management board of each protected area. So that is uh, one good model for collaborative management. Um, uh, we proactively, the AHP Secretariat responds to the requests for support from the countries. And so, what and how can we help the countries in like like if they want to nominate AHPs? We facilitate the coordination between our national focal point, who usually are from the ministries of environment. We acknowledge the fact that in a number of countries in the region, our focal point, or the usually in charge of biodiversity conservation, they are not directly responsible for protected area management. So they sometimes they are in different departments, like in Brunei, Vietnam, where else? Thailand, they have this different offices, but under the same ministry. But in Vietnam, they have different ministries. And sometimes, because we acknowledge also the different governance structures or mechanisms in the countries, we try to influence their coordination. We can provide technical guidance in the preparation of non-nomination documents. So we look at not only the form, but also the substance. When we receive nomination documents, we check if there are missing or inconsistent information. So we provide the template. But then sometimes if there are additional information needed, so we give such advice to the countries. And also, we take a look if there are incomplete supporting documents. And depending on the partner, on our existing partner, we can mobilize technical and financial resources to support national processes in the preparation of the nomination document. So sometimes in-house experts or from voluntary support from our network of partners. But then our experience, for example, with the KfW Small Grants Program, they allowed some like the use of funds in supporting their national processes, the consultation. So we were able to shell out some funds for like in the case of Vietnam, so in support of their nomination. And that's why our strength is ACB's strength is in its network of partners, and that is why we can leverage support from them. So thank you very much for your attention. And in the next month, we'll be launching the updated program website. So in November, you can visit this URL. Thank you very much.